Talk adapted from The Right Time by G.P. Woodward. Narrated by AI voice Beatrix of Speechello. Author's note. The following section is dealing with the terminology of time and the required structure. It is necessary to rethink the new meaning of some familiar temporal terms. This is necessary to the function of the explanatory framework. The two kinds of time: 1. Foundational, sequential, uni-temporal, and 2. Emergent, informational, relativistic, necessitate adjustment of the meanings of the terms future, past and present, so that they are compatible. Two futures. The pre-written, potential, future. One future is the not yet received sensory stimuli that already exists in the environment. It can be called the pre-written future. The potential stimuli produced could be from spontaneous emission or reflection of electromagnetic radiation waves, the production of pressure waves, which will be interpreted as sound, release into the environment of other potential stimuli such as chemicals in the air, that can be detected by artificial detector or organism. The time between production and receipt will depend on the type of potential stimulus, distance from source and environmental factors affecting transmission. Transmission time for pressure waves and chemicals in the air can be affected by air currents, for example. The distribution of electromagnetic radiation in the environment, and the relation to an observer gives relativity and non-simultaneity of events for different observer positions and motions. This relic information is often, insufficiently, thought of as being the past, since the event producing the potential stimuli has already occurred unobserved. A subset of electromagnetic radiation, pertaining to a macroscopic event during which it was emitted, may be received and processed into the present of one observer, while electromagnetic radiation pertaining to that event has already been experienced by another, and may be still to be received by more distant observers, and is, in that regard, their pre-written future. The events to which the pre-written future pertain are fait accompli. Even if the potential sensory data produced is not received until long after, the events that will be observed are inevitable as they have already occurred in object reality. When ancient information is received and formed into images, it must be remembered that although the event in object reality has occurred, the signals are now being formed into a present image reality. It is a present image reality pertaining to an ancient object reality, or pertaining to amalgamated information from object realities that did not coexist. The unwritten, open, future. The other future, pertaining to material and beable reality, is open and non-existent, the imagined nothingness prior to actualization. That shall be designated the unwritten future to contrast with the pre-written future. This open future is an imaginary, non-existent realm, not the source of material and beable reality. The open, unwritten future is necessary for partial non-determinism and free will. It can be imagined as what will be, but it doesn't have ontic, actualized or a phenomenal reality. As it does not exist, there can be no time travel into that future. However, a human being, or other sentient being, can, working only in the now with the imagined future as an aim, exert those physical and mental efforts necessary to actualize the imagined future later on, in uni-temporal object reality, if the efforts are successful. The configuration of uni-temporal now need not be fully determined by the former arrangement, as there may be some randomness, where there is more than one possible outcome, only one of which is actualized in the new configuration. There is only sufficient material to produce one new configuration, and so there cannot be a branching into alternative material outcomes. Those configurations not actualized remain as historical theoretical possibilities only. This is a very different concept to a space-time continuum or block-time universe in which all space and time exists. There is complete determinism and no change, and therefore no true randomness, as all outcomes that occur are inevitable. The past. The object universe is continually changing, directed by the relations of its constituents and resultant forces. It can be thought of as a pattern that is ever changing. The uni-temporal now being subsumed by the next now. There is no material past that has separate existence. There is no enduring material past. But there are imperfect and incomplete records, including memory, which is plastic and not fixed. Remaining relics, neural structure storing memory and material records, that all exist, are wholly within unitemporal now. Some parts of the configuration will continue across the sequence of nows, but they are not the past itself but fully part of the current, youngest now. Yet they allow some knowledge about former configurations and events, such as by archaeology and paleontology. And while the former material configurations that created them no longer exists and cannot change, our understanding, our records, can, for example with new archaeological discoveries. The present. Present, present now, here and now, now, all the preceding terms are terms for the observed manifestation formed by an observer from received signals, that enable generation of sensory information, which, through internal processing, produced experience and cognition of a semblance of external reality. It should be noted that now is not unitemporal now. Unitemporal now is the material and beable configuration of the object universe, that is the source of all present, or now, manifestations, produced from signals emitted during that configuration, temporally preceding the present manifestation. The source of present experience may be events occurring externally to the observer, or reported to the observer in real time, such as a live TV show. The temporal delay between the recording of the material event and the observation of the real-time show will not alter the perception of it as occurring now. There will be informational temporal spread within the product because of differences in unitemporal now configuration in which the various signals, received together, originated. Signals from which the sensory information is generated, that is amalgamated into the product. This comprehension of the emergent nature of the present, and differentiation of it from unitemporal now is far more precise and suitable for physics, than the term, present and now as used in general parlance as synonymous with material occurrences. For visualization of this process, if the potential sensory information produced in each iteration representing a discrete configuration of object reality is imagined a different color. Rather than keeping in mind the temporal origin, i.e. position in the sequence of iterations, it is easy to recognize that the reality that emerges from processing of that information, obtained from received signals, is an amalgamation of a multicolored input, pertaining to different configurations of the object universe, an emergent, virtual space-time map. The sense of vision that allows production and utilization of such virtual space-time maps is an important survival advantage for living organisms. That the map generated shows emergent virtual spacetime is just a consequence of its production from received signals. That distant objects also appear smaller due to visual angle enables decisions about proximity of predators, competitors and resources to be calculated, which is greatly advantageous for a living organism. It is also a strong clue that what is seen is a representation and not external reality itself. As the size of external material objects do not change because of the location of the observer. Color discrimination provides a survival advantage as it is helpful in differentiating source objects in the external world, such as food, predators, and mates. Color seen, hue and shade, is a generated product, not an objective characteristic of the source material object. Non-simultaneity of events for different observers can be regarded as a difference in their emergent virtual spacetime maps that have been produced from sensory inputs obtained from the unitemporal external reality. It is not an indication that the events witnessed in each observer's present still exist as seen in external reality. Experiments, using computer simulations, will be able to show that virtual space-time representations can be generated by self-organizing learning systems given a changing environment, in which they must successfully navigate to survive. The algorithms that develop could be studied and possibly be used to create a reconstruction of the virtual organism's representation of its environment. Differences between the given environment and the representation produced will demonstrate that the two are not identical. With understanding of the two kinds of time, see video of that name, and the necessary adaptation of temporal terminology, set out here, you will have the background needed to start using the explanatory framework.